Hey everybody, Todd Jason here, and I got a big question that came in this week with one of my clients, and I want to share it here. And my hope is that you get a lot of value out of the way that I answered this question, because we are all dealing with difficult people and difficult situations. I'm going to read the question, and I'm going to share with you how I answered, and also give you a 5-step process for how to go about this situation. So the question came in: Todd, you talk a lot about challenging situations and people. I am in a really toxic relationship at work, someone that I need to deal with every day, and it's going really badly. What do you suggest in terms of me trying to change this? And so as I'm going through this, what I would love for you to do is think about a challenging situation, or even better, a challenging person that you are dealing with, someone that is in your life that always causes anxiety or stress, or where there's tension and conflict consistently. And the way that I'm going to do this is first give you 3 points. And then the 4th point I'm going to make is going to be communication strategies for dealing with toxic situation. At the end of this, you're going to get a tried and true strategy, a series of phrases and ways to communicate with people where you have a challenging situation that will heal and change that relationship. I've seen this time and time again. So wait for step 4, but I'm going to talk about the first 3, which are really important. The first recommendation that I have, and what I share with my client, is, well, can you end the situation? Can you end the relationship? And it created a blip in her matrix. She was like, well, no, it's somebody that I work with. And I said, no, I understand that, but I actually want you to think about a way that you would be able to exit yourself from this toxic relationship. And it's really important to go through the mental exercise of understanding what it would look like and feel like to remove yourself from that situation. Most people don't give themselves that moment in time. And it doesn't mean that you're going to end the relationship or move jobs or get divorced or whatever it is that you would need to do. The practice itself is really important, of just giving yourself a moment of spaciousness to think about what it would be like. And the way that I coach people to do this is by just feeling what it would be like to have that relationship removed, all that anxiety and all that stress. What if it didn't exist in your life? What would it actually be like? So that's step number 1. The next piece is, assuming that you're not going to completely end the relationship and quit that job or get divorced or separated, is to be smart about strategies for how you can alter the relationship and mitigate the moments of stress and anxiety. So with my client, I inquired about the true nature of the challenge that she's having with this person at work. And it turned out that upon inquiry, the challenges happen during a certain weekly meeting over and over again, where they get into a big fight and it goes terrible. And so we started to look at, can you do something to alter the energy of that meeting? And what we came up with was a different way to begin the meeting that would mitigate the conflict that eventually arises. Now, without going into full detail of her situation, how I want you thinking about this is, if you have a toxic relationship and you have a consistent negative experience with somebody or a situation, I want you to think really practically about how and when that exists in your life. Does it happen during a certain day in the week? Does it happen during a certain time? Does it happen when certain other events happen? You got to be strategic when you're wanting to remove stress and anxiety out of your life. And this is a good time to use the cognitive analytical part of our minds and think, when does this actually occur? We can sometimes strategize and think our way through the difficult conversations and moments by removing ourselves from the very specific series of times that they happen. The third piece is to get over the fact that you have to deal with this oftentimes. And this is after 20 years of coaching people that are having difficult moments, difficult situations. So many times people think, well, why do I have to do this? Why can't they just change? And here's why: because they can't just change. Okay. We have to take ownership that it is us. It is me. It is I. I want you to put your hand up right now and say, I am the one that is perceiving a difficult moment, a difficult situation, and a difficult relationship. Now, that other person may also be having difficulty, but let's not focus on that right now. We got to take ownership of our own experience. Okay. And so if you want an out, if you want a solution, if you want what I'm sharing in this video to work, you actually have to want to change, and not the other person to change. You have to be willing to change yourself. Now, often people have some sort of compulsion or addiction to the pain that the toxicity causes. And we have to be humbled by our own limitations on this, because we do get subconsciously addicted to the pain and the suffering that we go through. But if you really want to change it, you put your hand up and say, yes, I do want to change this, and I am willing to take ownership of my part of the situation. So the situation with my client was revealing for her because she realized that she was very much a part of that toxic relationship. And there was a way that she was showing up consistently with the expectation that person was going to be a certain way that set the stage for the challenge to persist in perpetuity. And once she saw that, and I asked her, do you really want this to change? And she said, yes. I said, then you have to make some changes. And she got it. I saw her face go like this. And I want you thinking right now, do you get it? Do you really want that situation to change? Now, I say this with love because I do understand that sometimes the other person or the situation is terrible. And it really is happening outside of you. And you've done everything that you can from your own perception to do this. But we do need to start with the idea and the willingness to fully go for making a change. The fastest way to do that is to look at it like this is your opportunity to grow, not theirs. Don't worry about them. This is your opportunity to make a change that will be positive for your life. Because if you can heal that relationship or situation, that will play out and benefit you in other areas. These things are all connected. So if you can heal this and transcend this, it will make a big difference in other areas. All right. Now, why most of you came to this video, which is what are the actual tools of communication for dealing with a toxic situation or a person? Now, I just want to reiterate that last point, which is we have to be willing to change and we have to be willing to experiment with and shift the way that we show up in the situation. And the number one way that we do this when a toxic situation or person manifests in our lives is to be curious. Oftentimes we are wanting to beat it down, fight it, resist it, run away from it. But when you shift your energy to curiosity and you actually look at the situation in the moment or the person with, why is that making you feel this way? Or what I'm hearing is that you are upset because XYZ. And you literally use your language to try to understand the other person. You try to understand the toxic situation so that way you can make a better decision to get out of it. And this is a superpower that keeps on giving. The trick with this one is oftentimes people try to do this, but the way that they're feeling on the inside while they're asking questions is, you're an idiot and you're wrong, and I'm going to prove you wrong. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? To be curious means that you genuinely have to be curious. And the way that we're curious is by saying to ourselves, I don't really understand the truth with this person. I can share with you personally that my wife, who I've been with her 12 years, and I know her as well as any person that I know on the planet, there are times where I just actually can't understand the way that she processes information. There are times, and she would say this as well about me, where I say something that I perceive to be so clear, but that information comes out of my mouth, into her head, is processed, and then comes back at me in a way that makes no sense compared to what I thought I just said. And so we have to be humbled by the fact that communication is a larger process than just us. So the inquiry has got to be genuine. You have to actually try to understand why this person is reacting this way. So with the client that I mentioned before, I had her start asking genuine questions when her perception of the toxic or challenge began to manifest in the situation. And I said, just be patient with it. And what happens is the person will react different because they're not used to you doing this. What they're used to is the old story and the old pattern of toxicity, which you're both playing a part of. But when you create this blip in the matrix and you actually genuinely look at them and I do this thing where I pat my chest, and I don't do this in front of people, but I pat my chest and what's going on here? And can you understand them better? So that way you can have a revelatory thought about the best way to move forward. The next technique is to slow down and take a beat. Okay, this is one thing that is universal in every communications course I've ever given or taken, any ancient wisdom tradition, any spiritual practice, is to slow down and take a beat. Meaning that as soon as you start to experience some level of pain or suffering or toxic situation, is to not immediately respond to it. Give yourself a breath. Just allow it to come in and allow yourself to process. In that moment and in that beat, I say to myself, what do I need to do here? What is the best way for me to act? You breathe and you just say, what do I need to do here? What is the best way for me to act right now? And I just let that settle in for a moment. And it's in that space and in that self-inquiry that a better solution often manifests, because you are literally breaking your own internal pattern of reacting that is partly causing the toxicity, and you are just allowing yourself to see things differently. Now, I just want to share that with these recommendations, it does not mean that every situation will immediately resolve. You have to practice it. You have to get better at it. You have to practice being authentic and genuine in your inquiry. You have to practice taking a beat. This is not easy for a lot of people to do. And you have to lift yourself out of the old story that you have about the toxic situation and relationship. So that's it for right now. I really want you to try these things. I'm going to recap them right now. The first one is to consider and to give yourself the space to, what does it look like for me to not be in this relationship? Just that practice can be freeing. The second piece is, how can I use my mind and my analytical self to alter and modify the situation that reduces the toxic situation? The third piece is to train yourself to look at the situation as an amazing opportunity to grow. And the fourth piece has several tactics. The first of which is to become curious and inquire about the situation. The second is to take a beat. And the third is to say to yourself in that beat, what do I need to do here? What is the best way for me to act and speak right now? And when you do these things, you will heal and transcend virtually any negative relationship. And I would love to hear what you think in the comments. This is the kind of coaching I do. If you have questions, let me know and I'll give you an answer. Thanks, guys.